Yes.
The Senate has said they're interested in seeing a corrective budget from the governor to deal with the projected budget gap in the new fiscal year of up to $750 million. Are you still expecting for the governor to send you?
So all three of the folks working on the budget have been exchanging proposals already. We've received some detailed information from the administration. The House has got some detailed information. We've sent some to the House. So they're all in communication. Everyone's working together.
Is there an agreement on how much needs to be cut from this budget in order to keep it in balance?
Quite a bit from what I'm told. But Senator Spilka and Chairman Dempsey would be the better people in the legislature to ask that of.
Speaker DeLeo, looking at the economic development bill, the sales tax holiday isn't included in there. Given the revenue problems we're expected to have, is this something that the state should approve this year?
That we should have, or
Right, that should the state have a sales tax holiday this year?
I think in the future that may be possibly be something where we may have to take a look at. I think we have to get a better idea, first of all, in terms of where we are relative to spending, how far we may be off in terms of our spending for next year that we may have to make up for or cut from our present budget. But I think until we have all of these facts and figures, I don't think we're ready to quite give an opinion just now relative to the sales tax holiday.
Mr. President, where are you on that issue?
I certainly think it ought to be part of the conversation. I mean, the back and forth that's going on between the branches at this point is sort of based on the notion that sort of everything's on the table, and we'll work through that accordingly. But I agree with the speaker. I think everything should be part of this conversation,
Including funding for the opioid program that the House, the Senate, and you have all said are really important, the expansion of funding for opioid programs?
I certainly think that's certainly something that we support, and as I said, there's been a lot of back and forth between the branches already at a very detailed level, and there'll continue to be going forward.
Has anything been taken off the table locally, anything for cuts?
I don't want to speak for my colleagues here, but I can tell you that my goal is certainly to try to preserve predictability around local aid for cities and towns. I think most of them have already voted on their budgets and have already teed up what they think next year is supposed to look like, and I'd hate to go back and make them revisit that.
I've already stated that I felt that probably local aid, Chapter 70 funding, possibly the opioid, legislation. I had mentioned early education as well, and some of those things that I see at this stage of the game, especially, be very difficult to try to cut.
Mr. President, where are you on the sales tax holiday this year?
The Senate's always been, I shouldn't say always, has increasingly been skeptical about whether this is a good use of now $25 million a year. So we always review this issue at about this time. It's on the table for discussion.
There were problems yesterday with Keolis. We'll start with Governor Baker. Was what happened acceptable to you?
Well, first of all, Keolis was dealing with some pretty significant circumstances, and we've talked to them about it. Somebody got hit by a train, and the process of dealing with that is always a difficult one for the people who are involved. Several people had deaths in the family, and some other people were sick, and we talked to them today about it, and they said that they believe it's a one-time occurrence, and that, frankly, it won't happen again. And I'm going to take their word for it on that one.
Any other comments from either of you about concerns with what happened with Keolis yesterday?
I think the only concern that we could have would be the fact that we're always concerned in terms of making sure that we provide good on-time, transportation. So hopeful that this is just a little blip in terms of what had occurred this weekend, and that they'll be back on a more regular schedule as time moves on.
Senate President, charter schools. The Senate bill seems to be a little, slowed down in the legislature. Do you expect this to go to the ballot?
Slow down in the legislature?
I don't know.
Does a dead stop equal slow down?
I mean, do you think
I
it's
don't
a good
expect
idea
this
for to
issue.
get
I
voted?
expect this issue is going to get resolved by the people on the ballot. I believe that the bill that the Senate did is a vision for the next round of discussion about the future of public education funding here in the Commonwealth. And so whatever happens on the ballot in November, there's a piece of legislation on the table on the Senate side that we could use to start the conversation about the future of public education. I keep trying to say public higher education, public education going forward.
Governor Baker, the state's single largest piece of spending is Medicaid.
Yep.
Can you foresee, given this budget deficit going forward, that there'll be cuts to either Medicaid services or eligibility in order to help close this projected gap for fiscal 17?
We haven't proposed any cuts to Medicaid eligibility as part of this.
Do you expect to?
No, we don't. And we're working on, as you know, on the sort of next act here, which is the federal waiver, which we'll be submitting sometime in July to the federal government. Hopefully they'll be able to review it and sign off on it by the end of the summer. But that's a little bit down the road, but we should all remember that there's $1 billion worth of federal funding and a federal relationship that's attached to that, and we really need to get that thing approved.
So
Thanks, everybody.
Governor,
Thank you.
Mr. President, the Speaker is putting forward a resolve today, I believe, to create a task force, 11 members that you would be participating in, to review campaign finance, lobbying, ethics, public disclosure laws. Is this something you can get behind?
Sure. I actually participated in the last collaborative effort on this when I was at Harvard Pilgrim, when Governor Patrick put one of these panels together and worked on a series of reforms and a report that eventually became legislation that was passed by the House and Senate and signed by Governor Patrick. We'll participate in whatever way makes sense, but I certainly think there are always opportunities to take a look and evaluate what's working and what's not, and to act accordingly on this stuff.
Thanks, guys. Gotta get going.
So I served on a commission similarly about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and we spent over a year, and the report got filed, and we implemented none of it. So it really depends on what the scope of work is and what the intention is. We just saw the latest draft today. We'll take a look at it and have conversations with the Speaker and the Governor.
The transgender bill has gone to conference committee. Do you anticipate it's going to be quick work?
It'll get done, and it'll get done well so that we get it right.
Thank you.